Did I take too long to read this book? Yes. Did I enjoy this book? No, I didn't. Hey guys, it's Sarah, and today I'm going to be doing a review of Wicked Fox by Cat Show. So Wicked Fox by Cat Show is a contemporary fantasy, a YA contemporary fantasy set in the city of Seoul in South Korea. Nice. It was released June 25th, 2019. It's about 429 pages, and I took a long time to read this book. It took me more than a couple of weeks, I think. At a certain point, I just stopped keeping track. And it got done, eventually. By the grace of God, it got done. Anyway, so before I get into my review of this book that I obviously did not enjoy very much, I should give you the background of it. So, Wicked Fox follows a girl named Gu Myung. She's just referred to as Myung throughout the book, who is a gumihu, which means she is a nine-tailed fox demon. Well, half of that, half human. And she has to devour the souls of men in order to stay alive. So every full moon, she sucks the soul out of men in order to keep her immortal life. Again, it's set in the modern city of Seoul, and how she goes around the moral dilemma of having to kill men to stay alive is she selects evil men who, evade law and order. She sucks their souls out, which, nice. One full moon, Myung crosses paths with Jihoon, who is a human boy who is being attacked by a goblin. Despite Myung's better judgment, she interferes, saves the boy's life, but in the process she loses her fox speed, which is her gumihu, her demon soul, which is very important because whoever has access over this fox speed has access over Myung's autonomy, her control, and for as long as the bead is not inside of her body, she becomes more and more feral, more agitated, more dangerous to be around. So that's kind of a dilemma, figuring out how to put the bead back in her body. And that's mostly what this book centers on, allegedly. But then also, the vast majority of this book follows Jihoon, who's the human boy, and his obsession is a word for it, his fascination with Myung, the mysterious girl who saved him in the woods. So that's the synopsis, that's the little description of the book. So I ended up giving this book 2.5 out of 5 stars. And ultimately, the one feeling I got away from this book once I put it down was just utter disappointment. I feel like a lot could have been done with the story. But before I delve into why I didn't like this book and why I gave it a less than satisfactory rating, I should delve into what I did like about this book, because there are always things I like about books. The first thing I liked about this book is the gumihu, the fox demon mythos. So in this book, the story is told from two perspectives. It's told from Myung's perspective and it's told from Jihoon's perspective. Right? But in between those chapters, between the two main characters, there are little passages, folklore passages, in which someone, a third person, narrates to you the tale of the gumihu, the fox demon, how they came to be. And I lived for those chapters. I absolutely adored them. I loved the way that they were written. I loved the way that, the story was presented. It reminded me a lot of Language of Thorns by Lee Bardugo, and I really enjoyed that collection of short stories. If this book was just the gumihu mythos, I would have very much enjoyed that. However, those passages were few and far between throughout the book. It's a shame that the rest of this book was not great. So another thing that I liked about this book was that it had a different setting, different culture, different atmosphere. It had a different heartbeat to it. Like I mentioned earlier, it's a contemporary fantasy, and there are a lot of those. And I've mentioned it before in other videos, but a lot of fantasies tend to feel the same, even though now, thank goodness, we're getting more diversity in regards to the fantasies that we see on the market. This book was set in Seoul, and it's written by an author of color, and just that's always going to be a positive thing, even if I didn't enjoy the story. So another thing that I liked about this book was the parental relationships that were presented in the story. So it's a well-known trope in contemporary fantasy, or in YA in general, for parents to be absent. They're either dead, or they're missing, or they're, neglectful, or workaholics. They're just not on the page, and that's just an obstacle that authors have to get out of the way so that the plot can develop. I understand that. A lot of the times when authors get rid of the parents, they're just kind of not addressed. Like, maybe there are a couple of lines here and there about how they miss their mom or whatever. That's not the case in this book. For all of the faults in this book, Cat Show really puts emphasis in crafting the relationship between parent and child. And even though the parents in this book are largely absent for different reasons, the impact of the absence is present in the story, which is a very convoluted way of saying that these characters, Myung and Jihoon, even if their parents are gone, you feel the impact that has on the character. They have insecurities crafted around their absence and negligence. They have, you know, character flaws. They have emotional breakdowns. They react to what it would feel like to be neglected if you were a child. It's I don't know, I just love the effort that the author put into that, and I did notice the effort and I enjoyed it. The relationships that these characters had with their parents was complex. It was not one note. It was not just resentment or just love. It was, you know, a basket of a multitude of things, you know. So now we have a long list of negatives. Brace yourself. So the first thing that I want to note about this book is that I really liked how the book started. The first maybe 10% of the book, especially the opening scene, right? If you've read the book, you know what I'm talking about. The opening scene centers on Myung hunting down a man, killing him, sucking his soul out, and her communing with Nara, who is a shaman who can see ghosts. So it's like a crime-fighting duo, and I really enjoyed that premise. Like, imagine if the rest of this book was just Myung and Nara fighting, and like they, one full moon, end up taking down a bad guy or whatever, and that leads to like a bigger scheme, and just the plot evolves that way. It's more interesting, it's more exciting, it centers more on Myung being an active participant in the story. I had hopes for all of that. I had hopes for a crime-fighting duo who takes down, you know, evil men, and there was just so much that could have been done, but it wasn't. So that's where my central disappointment stemmed from, the first chapter, which is nice. The next thing I wanted to tackle was the fact that the characters were either very one-dimensional in the story or annoying as hell. So all of the side characters, except for maybe a couple of them, I did not enjoy. They felt very like, I need this character for this drama, and I need this character for this drama, and I need this character for this plot device. I didn't feel like the author sat down and fully fleshed out the characters, to me personally, and that just made me not care for any of them. So when the story really got going towards the very end of the book, I could not care less about any of them. And then the more fully fledged characters, Myung and Jihoon, the two central characters, they're just annoying. They're annoying. I can't stand them. They're so freaking annoying, especially when they get together. They're annoying before they get together. They're extra annoying when they get together. Their love is annoying. Their love is tumultuous. They're tumultuous. They're annoying. I just could not stand them. I thought they were very immature. You know, like this whole plot is going on around them, and every 2 seconds, like someone could be dying, but they would stop and, you know, think about their emotions and think about how, you know, they feel about one another, and just think about, you know, how they long to hold one another. And I'm just like, listen, you're going to be dying in a couple of days if you don't fix this problem. You have bigger fish to fry. You have bigger things to worry about. It was very frustrating. It felt very immature, which is another thing. This book felt very young. And I know people hate, you know, when people complain about, why are you feeling young? It's supposed to be for children. No, I think it's a valid complaint that you can have for a book, especially when characters are aged up. So every character in this book is either 18 or older, which means that they're adults, at least by US standards. I don't know what it's like in South Korea. But they're adults, and they act like they're children. Jihoon, Myung, the classmates, everyone in this book felt very immature, which I know some people don't like that complaint when it comes to YA, because they're supposed to be immature, they're young adults, which I don't think is true necessarily. Like, for example, in this book, the characters are 18 and older, like I said. If they act younger than their age, I will complain, because I didn't pick up a book about 14-year-olds. This would have all made sense if these were 14-year-olds. I picked up a book about 18-year-olds. So there's no reason for them to be throwing food in the cafeteria and getting in fights and yelling really immature insults at one another. It didn't feel realistic. There was no reason for these characters to be 18 plus, except for the author setting up these characters going on their own later on in the book. So what really got me in regards to this book was the plot. I told you earlier that I was disappointed that it wasn't my dream crime-fighting book, but that would have been fine had the plot been coherent afterwards, had the plot been interesting, had the plot been, you know, cohesive. That wasn't the case. So this plot was really badly done, in my opinion. I understood the first half of the book. I didn't like how it was paced. I didn't like how the author planned things out, but I understood where she was going. There was the central plot of the fox speed, right? That's the end goal for Myung. So that kind of has a plot inherent in it. But halfway through the book, stuff starts hitting the fan for no reason. Like, the plot that was established and the premise of the story, established through the beginning of the story, kind of loses meaning when the middle of the story comes through. It genuinely felt like the author just didn't know what to do, and so she was like, F it, I'll do everything. Who's gonna stop me? Like, there were a lot of mini plots that didn't really go anywhere. There were a lot of tropes. Like, I swear to you, there were soap opera tropes in this book where people go to comas and, you know, missing parents come and, you know, people are revealed to be someone else's child, and just not to mention all the drama in Myung and Jihoon's relationship, and all of the drama between Jihoon and his friends, and all of the drama between Myung and Jihoon's friends, and all of the drama between Myung and her classmates, and all of the drama between Myung and her mom, and all of the drama between Jihoon and Myung's mom. And just, it was a very dramatic book, melodramatic book. It was not the good kind of drama, not the good kind of angst where it felt kind of earned. It was badly done. I genuinely felt like watching an episode of Riverdale, or like watching a season of Riverdale in which there is some kind of plot presented, but then you go all the way up here for no reason. Please come back down. Like, please get back to the plot. Another thing is that the pacing was not great. Like, something consequential to the plot would happen, and then we'd get 100 pages of nothing, and then something else consequential to the plot would happen, and then we'd get 200 pages of nothing. It was so boring. I felt like I was dragging my eyes across the page, just begging for the book to be over, and it didn't end for weeks for me. This book was definitely a character-driven book with emotions constantly on high, and that would be fine had the premise of this book not promised a coherent plot. This book, if you want to read it, is very much a romance with some side of paranormal, some side of fantasy, which is fine if you were warned about it from the beginning, from the get-go, if you weren't, you know, expecting to go in reading a high action, high stakes fantasy set in like an exciting, vibrant, fast-paced city. I can't. I'm just very disappointed in this book. I will not be reading the rest of the series. I won't even think about the next book. A lot of things could have been done better. The characters could have been planned out better. The plot could have been planned out better. The pacing could have been done better. But what can you do? So yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm leaving things out, but I'm tired. And that's been my review. So I'm Sarah. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you in the next video.